Okay, let's dive into this. Italy and electric vehicles. You might have seen some headlines lately, and they seem, well, a bit contradictory, maybe.
Hmm.
Like you have Italy's environment minister, Gilberto Pichetto Frotin, saying point blank the future is electric. He even called it l'indicibile, the unspeakable truth.
Right.
But then, almost in the same breath, he says, but Italians just can't afford them.
Yeah, that tension is really at the heart of it, isn't it? It sums up the challenge pretty well.
Exactly. And that's what we're digging into for you today.
We've been looking through quite a few sources articles, some think tank analysis, official statements too, trying to get past those surface level headlines.
We want to understand the economics, what's happening with the tech, the infrastructure, the whole picture.
And the policy stuff too.
Right. So, our mission for you today, let's try and quickly unpack what's really going on with Italy's EV strategy. What are the plans? What are the hurdles they know they have? And what makes Italy's situation maybe a bit unique?
Okay, sounds good. And like you said, the official line from the minister, it's clear. The direction is electric. He sees it as, well, inevitable for cars.
But then bang, the reality check.
Yeah.
That phrase he used, ma gli italiani non possono permetterselo, but the Italians can't afford it. The sources really hammered this home.
They do. It's presented as the core economic problem right now. The price tag on a new EV, it's out of reach for what the average Italian household can actually spend.
So you've got this push, right? Environmental goals, future rules saying go electric, but it smacks right into the wall of what people can actually afford.
Exactly. It's a direct collision. And the sources frame that affordability gap as like the number one immediate hurdle they need to overcome.
Okay, so how are they trying to bridge that gap? We heard about new EV incentives. Where's the money for that coming from? Because one source had a really interesting angle on this.
Ah, yes. Here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even a bit unexpected based on the analysis we saw. The funding for these bigger EV incentives. It's not exactly new money set aside just for EVs. The sources are saying it's coming from repurposed PNRR funds.
PNRR, that's the big EU recovery fund money for Italy, right?
That's the one. And specifically, funds that were originally meant for hydrogen projects, for decarbonization using hydrogen.
Hold on. They're taking money from hydrogen and putting it into electric cars. That feels like a pretty major shift in strategy. Why? What did the sources say?
Well, the analysis points to a couple of things. First, it seems there just wasn't enough demand or maybe enough ready-to-go projects for those hydrogen funds. The whole industrial side of it was moving slower than planned.
Ah, okay. So the hydrogen dream wasn't quite matching the immediate reality on the ground.
Sort of. The projects weren't materializing fast enough to use the money effectively in the time frame. So the thinking seems to be, let's shift those funds to something that can stimulate demand more immediately.
Which is electric vehicles, even if adoption is slow there too.
Seems like the pragmatic choice reflected in the sources. An admission that maybe the hydrogen timeline was a bit optimistic, so let's reallocate to support the EV path, which, globally at least, is more established right now.
Wow, that's a fascinating look at how big strategies sometimes have to bend to reality. So who are these EV incentives actually aimed at? Did the sources give specifics?
Oh yeah, the plan seems pretty targeted. A big chunk is aimed at lower-income individuals, trying to make EVs at least a possibility for people who are currently priced right out.
Okay, that makes sense.
And crucially, there's also a heavy focus on replacing older commercial vehicles. The really polluting ones.
You mean like delivery vans, work trucks, that sort of thing?
Exactly, especially the old Euro 1 and Euro 2 diesels. One source had a pretty startling statistic on this.
About how much they pollute.
Yeah, it highlighted that these old Euro 1 and 2 vehicles, they can pump out up to 30 times more pollution particulates and stuff than a modern Euro 6 vehicle.
30 times, wow.
So getting those off the road isn't just about hitting climate targets broadly. It's about, air quality, especially in cities where these vans operate constantly. It's almost framed as a public health thing as much as an environmental one.
Okay, so targeted incentives.
Yeah.
Funded by shifting money from hydrogen.
Mm.
That's part of tackling the cost. But let's go back to that core problem. Why are EVs still so expensive in Italy, even with help? You'd think simpler motor, maybe cheaper to build eventually.
Right, you'd think so. And the electric motor itself might be simpler, yeah. But the sources consistently point to the battery. The battery pack is still the single most expensive part of the car.
Ah, always the battery.
Pretty much. The cost of making them, the materials inside, the whole supply chain.
Yeah.
it keeps the overall price high. And the sources stress that in Italy, the gap between that price and what people typically earn is just particularly wide, wider than in some other European countries, maybe.
And I guess that high cost dampens demand, right? Which then maybe means manufacturers don't bother bringing their cheapest EV models to Italy. Creates kind of negative loop.
That dynamic is definitely hinted at in the sources. Less demand means less reason for car makers to offer a wide range of affordable choices. But there's a potential disruptor mentioned,
Which is,
the Chinese EV manufacturers.
right. We're seeing them everywhere.
And the sources suggest they could be really key for Italy's market. They're coming in with models that are often priced, well, significantly lower than many traditional European brands.
That could definitely start to chip away at that cost barrier, couldn't it? If genuinely cheaper options become available.
It's certainly presented as something that could speed things up in the next few years, a direct attack on that affordability problem.
Now, beyond just the price people pay, this whole shift has bigger waves, right? The minister talked about needing a gradual transition. What's the main worry behind that caution, according to the sources?
Jobs, that's the big one highlighted. Italy has a huge automotive sector, right? Lots of skilled workers, suppliers, all built around combustion engines.
Making engine parts, fixing them,
Telephone.
all that.
Exactly. So if you switch too fast, too abruptly to EVs, which have fewer moving parts, different components, you risk major job losses, major disruption for those workers and companies.
So gradual means trying to manage that fallout, giving time for people to retrain, for factories to convert.
That seems to be the idea, trying to bring the workforce and the industry along rather than just letting the old system crash. And that concern is also why, according to the sources, Italy isn't putting all its eggs in the pure battery electric basket right now.
Right. You mentioned other technologies were still in the mix.
Yeah. Even though the long-term destination is stated as electric, the current strategy still explicitly includes things like biofuels from sustainable sources, they stress, and synthetic e-fuels. Even hydrogen is still mentioned as part of the broader energy and mobility plan, despite that funding shift we talked about.
So it's not like they're saying BVs are nothing tomorrow.
No, not based on what the sources describe. It looks more like a multi-pronged approach for the medium term, recognizing that maybe different technologies fit different needs or provide a bridge while the EV infrastructure gets built out and the grid gets greener. It keeps options open.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's zoom in on the actual tech inside the car, the battery. The sources mention something specific, LFP batteries. Lithium ferrophosphato. It sounds like the battery world itself is evolving. What's the deal with LFP versus, say, the NMC ones we hear about more often?
Right, LFPs is definitely gaining ground. The sources point out some key advantages. One is lifespan. They tend to last longer, meaning more charge cycles, compared to NMC, which uses nickel, manganese, and cobalt. They're also seen as safer.
Safer how?
Less risk of thermal runaway, overheating or catching fire. That's a big plus.
Definitely. What about the environment? Are they better there?
That's another point highlighted. LFP uses iron and phosphate. Much more common, less environmentally tricky than cobalt and nickel, which NMC needs. So potentially cheaper to make and less reliance on those critical, sometimes controversially sourced minerals.
Okay, so longer life, safer, maybe better for the planet in terms of materials. What's the catch? Any downsides mentioned compared to NMC?
Yeah, there are trade-offs. The main one noted in the sources is energy density. LFP batteries typically store a bit less energy for the same weight or size compared to the latest NMC type.
Meaning slightly less driving range for the car.
Often, yeah. For a given battery size, you might get a bit less range, though the tech is improving fast. And the sources also mention LFP can be a bit more affected by really cold weather performance, might dip slightly in extreme cold, maybe slower charging sometimes. But again, they're working on that. So it's kind of a balance, right? Cost, safety, lifespan versus getting the absolute maximum range, especially in the cold.
Shows it's not just one size fits all for batteries. And thinking long term, what happens when these batteries die? For this whole thing to be sustainable, we need to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
Sources mentioned recycling and reuse.
Absolutely critical, yeah. It's framed as essential for the whole transition to actually be sustainable. The sources talk about developing advanced ways to not just recycle the valuable materials, lithium, cobalt, whatever's in there, but also to reuse the batteries first.
Reuse them how?
In second life applications. Like maybe a car battery isn't powerful enough for a car anymore, but it could still be used for storing solar energy for a house or grid balancing. Use it for that for years, then recycle the materials. Creating that circular economy is key.
Got it. Okay, so we've covered Cars, money, jobs, batteries. What about the massive elephant in the room? Infrastructure,
Hmm.
charging stations. What's the situation in Italy, according to the sources?
Well, the picture painted is challenging. There are hurdles. One big one is that feedback loop we touched on earlier.
The chicken and egg thing.
Exactly. Fewer EVs on the road, partly because people worry about charging, which means less incentive to build out a really dense public charging network.
Right. No cars, no chargers, no chargers, no cars.
Pretty much. And even where chargers do exist, another problem highlighted is the cost. Public charging can be expensive for people.
Yeah, that's a big deal if you can't easily charge at home or you're on a long trip.
It really is. Now, the sources acknowledge this, but they also mention an expectation that costs will come down. The thinking is, as more chargers get built and more people actually use them, the companies providing the charging will be able to lower their prices, make it more competitive with filling up a petrol car.
Let's hope that pans out. Were there any, innovative ideas mentioned to tackle the time it takes to charge? That's another barrier for people, isn't it? Comparing it to a quick petrol fill-up.
Yes, actually. One interesting solution discussed is battery swapping.
Battery swapping.
Yeah. It's not huge in Italy yet, but the sources point to places like China where it's already happening and growing. You drive into a special station, and a machine takes out your depleted battery and slots in a fully charged one. Takes just a few minutes.
Whoa, like swapping out a propane tank or something.
Kind of, yeah. It completely bypasses the waiting time for charging. It's seen as a way to directly tackle that refueling time anxiety some people have. Could be great for taxis, fleets, people who drive a lot.
That's a really different way of thinking about it. Okay, final piece. Let's step back. How does all this EV stuff connect to Italy's bigger energy picture, if we link it to their overall strategy?
Well, the minister specifically connected it to energy independence, energy security. He pointed out, and the sources noted this, that Italy's managed to get off Russian gas. They've diversified, bringing in more from places like Algeria, Azerbaijan, built up capacity for LNG imports.
So supply isn't the main worry anymore for gas.
Apparently not the quantity or the source, no. According to the sources, the big headache for Italy with gas now is the price, the volatile price on the global market. And that high energy cost is a key background factor for this whole sustainable mobility push.
Because if traditional energy is super expensive.
Exactly. It makes alternatives look much better. Energy efficiency, electrification, using electricity that can increasingly come from domestic renewables or more stable sources becomes way more attractive economically. Pushing for EVs fits into that broader goal of reducing reliance on unpredictable fossil fuel markets, boosting energy security by shifting towards electricity.
That puts everything in a much larger context. It's not just about cars, is it? It's tied into national energy security, the economy, air quality.
It really is a complex web, a challenge, but also an opportunity on many fronts.
Okay, so let's quickly summarize the main takeaways we pulled from the sources for you. Italy's government says the future is electric, no question. But the major roadblock right now is cost. EVs are too expensive for many Italians. They're trying to fix this with targeted incentives, paid for, interestingly, by shifting funds away from slow-moving hydrogen projects. The transition needs to be gradual, they say, to protect jobs in the traditional auto industry. And things like biofuels are still part of the plan for now.
Right, and battery tech is evolving. LFP offers potential cost and safety benefits, maybe less range than NMC, while recycling and reuse are vital for the long run.
Infrastructure is a challenge, the chicken and egg problem with demand and chargers. Plus, high public charging costs are issues, though there's hope costs will fall. And ideas like battery swapping exist.
And it all fits into this bigger picture where Italy's main energy worry has shifted from gas supply to gas price, making electric mobility look strategically smarter.
That pretty much covers the core insights from the material we looked at. It shows the path forward is clear, but boy, there are some significant bumps in the road that need clever solutions.
Definitely. Policy, technology, economics, they all have to line up.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with a thought for you to chew on, based just on what we've discussed from these sources. You've got the high costs and infrastructure gaps on one side, but you've also got the clear policy direction, the funding shifts, new tech like LFP, and potentially cheaper Chinese EVs entering the market. What single factor do you think will be the biggest decider? The thing that will most speed up or slow down Italy's move to electric cars in the next few years?
Something to think about as this all develops.
Indeed. Well, we hope this deep dive helped make sense of a complex situation for you. If you found it useful, informative, please do give us it really helps other people find the analysis.
And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you catch our next deep dive into whatever topic we tackle next.